November 90520 Delta now has two G5s, the G5 attitude indicator that you're used to if you've flown this plane before, and a G5 HSI, horizontal situation indicator, which replaces the directional gyro that used to be in the plane. The purpose of this video is to orient you with the functions of the HSI and point out some system changes. The G5 attitude indicator displays primary pitch and roll information for the aircraft, as well as backup information such as airspeed on the left, altitude on the right, slip skid information, turn rate information, and, as we will discuss later, when used in conjunction with the HSI, the attitude indicator can display lateral deviation and glide slope information. It can also become a backup HSI in the event of an HSI failure. The G5 HSI works like the directional gyro that you are used to and has an adjustable heading bug. Superimposed atop the card is a CDI needle, which can relay ground or satellite-based navigational course information. When used with VOR and GPS navigation, the G5 HSI provides course deviation ground track, ground speed, distance measurement, heading selection, and instrument approach related information. The G5 HSI is a solid-state unit and receives magnetic heading reference information from a magnetometer, so there is no need to adjust the compass card for precession. The G5 attitude indicator is directly connected to the aircraft main power bus, and it will automatically power up and down when the aircraft master switch is turned on or off. The G5 HSI is directly connected to the avionics power bus and will automatically power up and down with the avionics master switch. See Figure 4.0 on the Hodge Flight Service website or in the aircraft binder for a complete system diagram. Due to the addition of the HSI, you will notice several more menu options on the attitude indicator. To access the menu, press the knob one time and scroll right or left. We have heading and altitude, which you likely won't need to use when operating normally. The backup HSI function is right here, and you'll see that the G5 attitude indicator became an HSI in the event of an emergency. To get back to attitude information, access the menu again and scroll to the right to select PFD. To change the brightness on either instrument, press the power button one time. You can manually adjust the brightness by rotating the knob right or left. Or you can press the power button again for auto brightness. To get back to the normal display, press the knob again. Pressing the knob on the HSI also pulls up a menu on the bottom of the screen. We will go through some of these examples later when we look at VOR and GPS navigation operation. To get rid of the menu, press the button one more time. To set a heading bug, manually rotate the knob right or left. We're currently facing heading 013, and I'm rotating the bug to the right until 013 reads in the bottom right-hand corner, and the bug is on top of my current heading. I can select a heading manually at any time, or press and hold the bug to swing it back around to my present heading. In this example, we will show you how to use the VOR in conjunction with the HSI. We are currently on the ground at Concord, And so we're going to use Concord VOR and identify a radial using the HSI. To start, you will need to make sure Concord VOR is identifiable using the GPS. So someone has already twisted in 117.0, and we're assuming that we have identified the Morse code and cross-checked it with Concord's Morse code. The final step before we head over to the HSI is to make sure our CDI is getting information from the GPS, and we can do that by pressing the CDI button at the bottom of the screen. I press it one time, and we'll notice that VOR localizer mode is armed on the GPS. Now notice on the HSI, we have a needle, a course deflection indicator, and it's shown in green. Green is the color that Garmin uses to indicate a ground-based navigational mode, in this case, Concord VOR. But we need to set a course or identify the radial upon which we're currently sitting, and to do so, we'll access the bottom navigational menu by pressing the button one time and scrolling over to course. Press the button again and rotate the knob right or left to change the course. In this case, I'm going to rotate, and we'll just watch the course deflection indicator and see when it centers. You'll notice now this middle arrow switched from pointing in the same direction as the outer arrow to the other direction, and we can use that as our to from indicator. As I swing the needle around, my course deflection indicator starts centering. When the needles are pointing in opposite directions, the course that we've set is our radial from the VOR. So right now we're sitting on radial 163. If I quickly bring the needle back around to the reciprocal, we should see both arrows facing the same direction. And that's a good indication of a 2. 341 to Concord VOR. To get rid of the information blocking my heading indicator, again, I will press the knob one time, and we can now fly and track that course. We will now demonstrate how to use the HSI in conjunction with a GPS or satellite-based course. We previously pushed the CDI button to change to VLOC mode. We'll now push it again to change to GPS mode. You'll see the color of the writing is purple, and when we do go back to look at the HSI, our course should show up in purple as a reminder that we're in GPS mode. We're going to use the GPS to go direct, nearest, and in this example, we're going to select Napa County Airport and activate. On the GPS, we can see a desired track of 309er. So let's head back over to the HSI and see how we can track that course. Looking back at the HSI, our purple course shows up with a desired track of 309er, and that does cross-check with what the GPS just told us in terms of how to get to Napa. In the upper right, we'll see our distance information displayed for your reference. Because we're on the ground, we cannot turn left to track this course at the moment, but we can notice that we might twist our heading bug to the left and then turn the aircraft to match that heading and track the course. In this example, we will show you how to use the OBS or Omni Bearing Selector function on the GPS in conjunction with the HSI. We're going to use Concord Airport as an example and pretend that we are returning to the airport at night and would like additional guidance to runway 3214. I'm going to start by selecting the direct button, nearest airport, and coming back to Concord. Because we're on the field here, we're only 0.2 miles away from the center on a desired track of 046. I'm going to select the OBS button, and then we'll head over to the HSI to get set up. Back on the HSI, we see an OBS instead of a desired track course showing in the bottom left. To adjust that number, I'll select the knob, scroll to OBS, push the knob again, and scroll right or left to change our OBS course. I'm going to select 3, 2, 1, 4. What you can't see is the GPS changing as well as we select 320 in our OBS course. Back on the GPS, we can see the extended runway center line of 32, which we selected, so it's purple, and the other way as well, 14, the reciprocal. Although the GPS provides us with dashed extended runway center lines when you go direct to an airport, you can now see how to use the OBS function for additional navigation and orientation. The autopilot now integrates with the HSI. In this example, we will show you how to use heading mode to turn the aircraft from straight and level flight. Start by turning on the autopilot. Then engage heading mode. Let's head over to the HSI to see how to adjust the bug and our angle of bank and heading. On the HSI, we can adjust our heading bug in order to turn the aircraft. Because we're on the ground, we're going to make a small adjustment, and you can observe the yoke turning once we adjust our heading. I'm going to turn several degrees left to a 360 heading. And you'll notice the yoke turning left to compensate. When looking at the menu on the HSI, you may notice a GPSS selection. GPSS stands for GPS steering and is a function of the HSI to help you more fluidly navigate in autopilot mode through a flight plan or change in course. When we select GPSS, the bar will turn green, GPSS will display in the upper left, and your heading bug will become hollow. To learn more about the GPSS function of the HSI, talk to a CFI or read the manuals available on the Hodge Flight Service website. As a reminder, when shutting down the airplane, the avionics master switch will likely be turned off first. And as such, the HSI will enter external power loss mode if any key is touched prior to complete shutdown. It is tempting to see this message and want to press a button, but please do not, or this instrument will run out of battery over time. We can also turn off the master switch and observe the same shutdown message on the attitude indicator. Again, do not press a button unless you intentionally want the instrument to continue on battery power. We hope this video was helpful. As a reminder, automation management and building proficiency in unfamiliar airplanes are important considerations for single pilot operations. For additional questions or training, for example, if you plan to use the autopilot to conduct an instrument approach, or want more information about advanced uses of the HSI, GPS, or autopilot, reach out to your Hodge Flight Service CFI for a ground or flight review. All manuals for the avionics system in this aircraft can be found on the Hodge Flight Service website. Safe flying.